Hi, I'm Revell Dixon and welcome to Journey into Arts, a series where I'll meet creative individuals who are well known in the art sector, hearing about their journey throughout their careers and to hear about the process when it comes to creating new work or projects. Today, I am in Camberwell where I'll be meeting Michelle Baharier. She's an award-winning fine artist and she has exhibited her work across the UK, Europe, USA and the Middle East.
My name's Michelle Baharier and I'm a small white woman and I've got pink hair, which is, I've got it in a fringe and a ponytail. I've got on a red shirt and a green patterned dress and yellow and green patterned leggings.
What has been your journey into art?
Well, my journey into art is probably quite strange, but I guess it either began when I was 5 at school, when I made a picture of a witch flying over the roofs of houses out of corrugated cardboard, and then the teacher wanted to put it up in the hall as an exhibition, and I wanted to take it home to show my mum. So we came to an agreement that I took it home to show my mum and brought it back to exhibit in the school. But on a more realistic level, we used to have a thing called career opportunities when I went to school. And the career opportunities didn't really have much going for me. So the career opportunities woman, whose name I forget, was saying to me that I could go and get a job working in a hairdresser's as an apprentice, or perhaps I might end up in prison. And a lot of that was due to prejudice to my disability, being dyslexic. And the school had already decided I wasn't going to do well in exams. And I'd already been told that I wasn't going to be allowed into sixth form. And if I wanted to continue anything, I had to go to college. And I was quite lucky. I had an older brother and he'd gone to art college. This here, I started making jumpers because my mum used to knit from a very young age. But I made this when I was about 14, 15. So I put all the clothes that I made together in a bag and wrote to this art college. They gave me an interview and I took these bags of my clothes and I took all the drawings I did because I drew all the time and showed them to them and they let me in. I don't know if that could happen now, and that really worries me because I didn't have any of the exams. So I made an agreement that I would take an art A-level if they let me in to do art. So that's what I did.
What is your process when it comes to creating new work?
I have several processes when I create new work. A lot of it is not conscious. I don't deliberately set out to, I'm going to make a piece of new art. I could be sitting on a bus and I'll have an idea. I could be out with my camera. So I do digital work like this piece here of the Haygate estate. That was a photograph that I took from the Elephant and Castle train station looking at the Haygate estate before it was knocked down, and actually probably before we knew it was going to be knocked down. And then I worked on it digitally. So my thought process is constantly on wherever I am, and as well as painting, and you can see all the paintings around me, I also take a lot of photographs which I turn into things that are functional, like this blue peacock here. Here's a sketchbook. I spend a lot of time scribbling and ideas come out from scribbling because I have conceptual ideas, and I guess it depends what ideas we take forward. So my process is quite vast. So I'm not just a 2D visual artist, and I'm influenced by everything around me in the world, which sounds a bit like overwhelming, but the world can be overwhelming, and that can include mythology, it can include real life events, and it's around a place, and it has a political resonance to it, obviously, because being influenced by your own identity as a Jewish woman and what that means and how that echoes in the society we live in. So influences can be really potent in that way for me.
What are the biggest challenges?
Well, there's several challenges. It depends how you want to make the work. There's lots of work I'd like to make that remains unmade. Part of that is lack of funding to make it, lack of venues to access, because a lot of venues, and people don't realise this, a lot of venues want to charge artists money to show their work. And some people call those places vanity galleries and say artists shouldn't do it. But for a lot of artists, if they don't do that, they wouldn't show their work. And I think there's not enough understood about, you know, the challenges to writing an Arts Council grant when you've got dyslexia. It's a bit like inverting your brain upside down. And also, like for me, anytime I apply for a residency or anything like that, probably takes me 5 times as long as anyone else to apply for it. And I think these barriers go unheard, unseen, because it's an invisible disability. So it's not as simple as somebody seeing me, you know, I turn up in my wheelchair and I can't get over the step and someone brings a ramp. People can't see. And so quite often it's quite difficult. And whenever I write an application form, you know, I don't have the vocabulary that other people have. There's no understanding of that. So that actually when you have dyslexia, your vocabulary is less than the majority of people. And so there's no leeway given to you if your application's written in a childlike way and you're up against all these other people. You know, so it's very frustrating that there isn't proper accessibility. And also, I wasn't around in the era there were computers, so I didn't learn computers at school. I'm self-taught. And that in itself is limiting. There's no proper thought in our society anymore. There used to be, you know, where you can go and do a course for 10 quid or something, where you can up your skills or improve your skills. All of that has gone by the wayside because education has just become something for people with money. And I think that's another barrier, is everything is monetarised.
Show me an object that represents you or relates to your artwork. Can you tell us about it and why is it important to you?
So I'm going to show you my little witchy poo. Witches are really important to me, not just because they're women, but because they actually represent how Jewish people were treated in the Middle Ages. So Jewish people were made to wear pointy hats and were considered witches. That othering of people has been constant in my life and then been added to via my disability. And I think witches will always be a constant symbol in my life. And also, because I didn't really understand as a child, you'd go and see a film like The Wizard of Oz, but the only women with really strong personalities were wicked, and they were witches, and they were ugly. And there's a kind of thing I have about that I never really understood why that was at that time. You know, as a little kid, you don't. And they're not wishy-washy. You know, they've got a character. They're strong. They're not weak. They're not waiting for a prince to come and kiss them and live happily ever after. Yeah, I kind of have an identity with that, I think.
What is your favourite place to visit?
One is Tel Aviv Beach. Got perfect sunsets and it's just a good place to swim, and you can just have a swim and leave. It hasn't got rows of sunbeds and parasols, which I hate. It's just a city beach. One is New York for galleries and just energy. It's just crazy, and you can just get on the subway and you can be in Brighton Beach or Rockaway Beach, or you can be in Manhattan, and You can be in kind of Little Russia or Little Italy or Little China. It's just vibrant and energetic. Another place would be going back to Taiwan. So it's got hot springs, it's got lovely people, and it's got really, really good food. And another place that's really nice is a place I went to in Vietnam, where you just go down, your energy just kind of becomes very peaceful, which is really nice. And it's to do with the landscape. So yeah, there's a lot of places on the planet that I like. I couldn't choose one.
If you weren't an artist, what would you be?
I think that's a really difficult question because going back to my career opportunities, interview at school, they thought I might be in prison because they didn't perceive me as having any skills. But I think I'd be a businesswoman. So for people who know or don't know, I actually ran Cool Town Arts for 25 years. And it was an arts and mental health charity which I set up from scratch, from nothing, from zero. It had a turnover of 500,000 and there were 24 staff. They were all disabled, the staff, and the participants in the project, around 3,000 people interacted with us a year. So I've obviously got pretty good business skills, but I learnt that from my mum because she used to have a toy stall on the market. So as a kid, I would go to market with her. And I think there's lots of education that's really misunderstood in our society. And it isn't academic education, it's actually stuff you just learn. So I understand business, so I probably would have been a businesswoman. Although at one time I did want to be the first woman on the moon or the first woman prime minister, but people beat me to it, so I lost my interest.
What's the one thing you would change about the visual arts sector?
I would like to actually get rid of class, get rid of all the curators. Every artist is a curator. I'd also break down all the barriers to whose work gets seen. And I'll use Banksy as an example. I know lots of artists who did graffiti and they went to prison. And they went to prison because unless you've got permission, it's illegal. And I think things like that, to me, really destroy artistic creativity. There was a guy in Brixton who used to do the most amazing graffiti, and it was all really emotional stuff and matchstick people. It wasn't the tags or anything. He went to prison, and I think things like that I find quite upsetting. I think the whole hierarchy of the art world needs to be brought down because actually we do not see the art of the most interesting artists, and that is because we're not in control of who chooses the art. And that's the other thing that I'd like to change about the art world. So a lot of people pay 350 quid, £400 on a winter coat that will last them maybe 4 or 5 years. However, a painting might cost you £1,000, but it will last you and your family for generations, and it will be a one-off, whereas the coat you've brought will be one of 20 million. And I think there isn't enough acknowledgement of that in the art world. So it's more than one thing I'd like to change.
How can people stay connected with Journey into Arts? People can stay connected by liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. From there, they can watch all the latest videos and be alerted for when new videos get uploaded onto the channel.